Okay, Mr. Bo Byerly, I'm ready for my close-up. All right, seriously, this is not about me. This show is about Arizona. Hi everyone, I'm Robin Sewell, and this week on Arizona Highways, we are talking about Arizona's connection to Hollywood. Now, it is no surprise to me that Hollywood has had a long-standing love affair with the Grand Canyon State, and this goes way back to the days of the Western and the Duke, and movies such as Star Wars and A Star is Born. Arizona has shared top billing with the greatest.
From the Grand Canyon to Monument Valley to Old Tucson, Arizona has Hollywood written all over it. Some of the greatest Westerns ever made were filmed right here, starring some of Hollywood's biggest names and Arizona's majestic landscapes.
There were over 55 movies filmed here. Tin Cup was filmed here in the mid-90s with Kevin Costner. And then we had many movies with John Wayne and Stuart Ranger.
From northern to southern Arizona, Hollywood seemed to take over our state.
Hollywood and Arizona have a rich history, with southern Arizona taking center stage. Now, even though the cast and crews were here to work, they still had to find a place to eat and sleep.
So they built the resort, they built 18 holes of golf, and this became the hangout for Hollywood stars when they were coming here to do movies.
With more than 300 film and television projects shot in Old Tucson since 1939, the studio is one of the most active filming locations for Western-themed movies.
They also began leasing the set to movie companies at $60 a day. Movie companies come out here, they had a perfectly good Western set they could use. And during their tenure from 1945 to 1959, 31 movies were made here. And we're talking the kind of Westerns I grew up with, the Fox Theater in downtown Phoenix. You know, Gene Autry, Randolph Scott, John Wayne, Jimmy Stewart, Ronald Reagan, Greer Garson, I mean, on and on and on.
And don't forget about sci-fi. The force is strong in the dunes outside Yuma. While Hollywood may be known as the movie-making capital of the world, Arizona continues to have a starring role. Walk into a pub or saloon off an Arizona highway, and you're bound to meet a character or two. And that's just how we met our new friend Fargo, who invited us out to his ranch. Out in the middle of nowhere, somewhere between Dos Cabezos and Wilcox, is Museum Ranch. Entering the ranch, I felt as if I was transported back in time to the days when John Wayne was headliner on the marquee and the old Western movie was the star of Tinseltown.
Well, we're here in Arizona, Wilcox, Arizona, a little place called Museum Ranch. We had a lot of equipment and things in there rented to production movie companies. People would go down the road or come by and they'd stop in and they'd say, well, what's this place? Well, it looks like a little, like a ranch, like a museum ranch, and that's how it got its name.
Fargo spent decades working in the movie industry, leasing and wrangling stock and animals, even driving his own antique wagons.
Furnished livestock and equipment to teams, wagons, saddle horses, small animals, and I even had a couple of fallen horses. Made those shops for my boy.
Step into Fargo's saloon, and it's a who's who of Western movies. Steve McQueen, John Wayne, Lee Marvin, even a former president.
Death Valley Days, where Western history comes alive.
First one I worked on was, Death Valley Days, and Ronald Reagan was narrating it at the time. Before he was a gov, before he was a presidente, and got to meet him all 3 times. Very nice man. He's perfect. He's a horseman, and he liked people. He's very outgoing. He was a champion. He's a lot like John Wayne to me. I really admire him.
When asked about working with Sinatra, Fargo doesn't hold back.
I hate to say this, but you may not like it. It's Frank Sinatra. He was terrible. He and I didn't get along worth a damn. All those were found on horseback.
Just name a movie and Fargo will tell you a story.
The last one I did was a thing called Rio Lobo. Head wrangler, Kenny Lee come over and says, the Duke wants to talk to you. I had to go over to the motor home. He said, what do you want? I'm going to sell that little horse. I said, no, sir, he's rented to the company.
That's what bothers me.
And I can't sell him yet. He said, well, who do you think the company is? I'm the company. And I said, yes, sir, but I've got him leased to the company, and I can't sell him till the job's over. 2 or 3 days later, he said, you know, I'm the company and I'm buying that horse. I said, I can't sell him till the job's over because I'm renting. I'd be stupid to rent him, sell him to you and lose my rent money. I wouldn't sell him the horse till the job was over.
Don't let this cowboy's rough exterior fool you. He has a bit of a soft spot for animals and is a steward of the environment.
I think I'd like to be maybe remembered as a kind of a curator of the land and the critters and whatnot.
When asked about the most valuable or interesting Western artifact in his collection,
A friend of mine brought these spurs. She found them at an estate sale. I imagine by the looks of them, the style of them, they're either from Argentina. This is pewter. I think as much of these as anything around here.
filmmakers have shot a couple of movies at the ranch. But today, Hollywood makes few Westerns, and Fargo no longer supplies stock for the movies.
The way they do movies today suits them fine. They can shoot around and get around a lot of obstacles that they couldn't do years ago, and that's fine in their own way.
Just another treasure we discovered 12 miles south of Wilcox and 100 years from city life.
Western motifs are not the only thing Arizona is known for. Movies like Thelma and Louise, Easy Rider, and an animated hit all found their way to get their kicks on Route 66. Out Route 66 west of Kingman, there is a place so tiny that you might miss it if you blink while driving by.
This is what it looked like in 1942.
A gift shop museum in Cool Springs, Arizona. Now, a dot on the map where 50 years ago business thrived on the Mother Road West, before interstates.
In 1966, it was totally destroyed by fire. Vandals burned it right to the ground.
In 1991, a Hollywood crew rebuilt it for 15 seconds of fame. And for the next decade, the last holdout in Cool Springs sat reduced to abandoned rock and rubble until
Ned Lechner out of Chicago bought it in late 2002. We decided to restore it back to very close to what it was originally.
We're from Des Moines, Iowa.
Dennis DeChennes helped rebuild it and manage it from time to time. He even found a mascot to park outside.
It was a 1951 Chevy Wrecker.
Only this wrecker was one of a kind, Dennis says, because the previous owner
Cut the bed off, shortened the frame, and put a used Holmes unit on it. And the Holmes is the wrecker part of the truck.
Why go into so much detail about this old truck? Because Dennis says that old truck
Was just a spitting image of Mater. We think that the movie was partially inspired by our tow truck.
as in Mater of Cars, the Pixar movie box office smash romancing good old Route 66.
We can't prove it, but we think there's a very close link to Cool Springs and Cars.
Pixar won't confirm it either, but the story stuck after a representative reportedly walked into the store and began asking questions in 2002.
They wanted to photograph the old wrecker from every angle.
The possible connection has caught the imagination of many, including, Dennis says, a thief.
He'd just come out here with his haul back and loaded it up and left.
At least the Little Wrecker's 15 seconds of fame has helped put tiny Cool Springs back on the map. One thing we hear a lot when we're filming Arizona Highways television is the Duke slept here, the Duke dined here. So, for all of you Western buffs out there, here is an Arizona Highways television star map to John Wayne.
Some of Tinseltown's brightest stars flock to Arizona, either to work or escape the bright spotlight. For John Wayne, who made about a dozen films across Arizona, this became his home away from Hollywood.
I decided when I decorated the room that I would make it to look
as if it were cowboyish because John Wayne was so famous for his cowboy movies, but I also wanted it to have some elegance. So it does have a Persian rug along with the cowhide bed, and it's got stars cut into the saltillo floor on the bathroom because I decided it was a stars bathroom, so it should have stars.
Like the cowboys he played, John Wayne's life imitated his art.
A man named Ralph Wingfield owned the ranch for 50 years. And he lent some of his cattle to the filming of Red River, which was one of John Wayne's movies, and it was filmed near here. The two men became friendly on the set, and they found that they had so much in common that they then became business partners and best friends. So John Wayne used to come here very frequently to visit his friend Ralph Wingfield.
The Duke co-owned the 26-bar ranch in the White Mountains, and John Wayne days are still celebrated in Eager. In downtown Patagonia, the Stage Stop Inn was actually built in part to accommodate cast and crew filming in the area.
The history starts back in 1960 when Anne Stradling came to town, and she came the same year that the railroad left, and she was an heiress from New Jersey, and her family had very, very old money from mining in South America, and she showed up here as her last, I would say, hurrah, and built this extraordinarily large hotel in a town of 800 people.
Turns out, Anne Stradling was a friend of John Wayne's, and his picture is still proudly displayed. And if he wanted to catch a show, Tucson was the place to go.
This is the historic Fox Theater, originally built in 1930. It's the biggest
The
carnival
Duke
theater
may not have slept here, but he had
All
the best
trolleys
seat
were
in the
free.
house.
Upstairs, we'll go up there in a minute, in the balcony, there are love seats. One of them was John Wayne's own cuddle nook.
The Duke had a golden ticket to Arizona.
Long before Old Tucson Studios opened, Hollywood directors flocked to one iconic Arizona location to film those big classic westerns. When it comes to diverse landscapes that are coupled with big blue, endless skies, nature has been very, very good to Arizona. When a young unknown actor named John Wayne first laid eyes on the incredible red sandstone towers of Monument Valley, he said, "So this is where God put the West." In the early 30s, local Trading Post owner Harry Goulding helped Hollywood and the rest of the world discover the magnificent Monument Valley.
Harry originally was just in the Trading Post business, but the Depression hit and things became very, very hard in this area. But he'd heard through the grapevine that a movie was going to be made, so he went to Hollywood to entice John Ford to come to Monument Valley and make the movie. Mrs. Goulding's told me that they went to, they found their way to John Ford's office. When Harry got into the office, he asked the secretary there if he could see John Ford. And the secretary asked, "Do you have an appointment?" And Harry said, "Well, you know, at Monument Valley, I take time to see anybody that comes through our doors, and you know, I'm just here to talk to him." And she says, "Well, you still have to have an appointment." Or he just reached in the back of his pickup and got his bedroll and walked back into John Ford's office. And of course, when he gets back into John Ford's office, the secretary there says, "What is that? What are you doing with that?" And he says, "Well, this is my bedroll. I came to see John Ford, and I plan on staying here until I see John Ford." So the location manager comes out to toss Harry out of the office. Well, he had several pictures of Monument Valley that he took and spread out on the bench. Well, the location manager, he gets into John Ford's office, sees Harry and sees the pictures that he laid out on the bench, and immediately became interested in the pictures. And in just a matter of an hour, they had agreed to make the picture, the first one called Stagecoach.
A lot of my relatives did work with the film companies. When the film companies started coming in, our people would work as extras. This brought in a little bit of money. The publicity from the film companies, yes, that would bring people here. It has changed the lifestyle of these people here.
First thing I try to tell the people is when you come here, don't be in a hurry. We just want to take your time and look the place over.
Brantley Baird is an Arizona cowboy and rancher, solid and genuine at first sight. He is also a man who owns a little slice of heaven in Joseph City, just outside Winslow.
The name of our ranch is ROCKART Ranch. We used to call it the local ranch until we started this, and then we changed it to ROCKART. So, because of the rock art in the canyon. The canyon here it runs a small stream of water the year round, and it's spring fed from about 5 miles up the canyon. And it's just beautiful the year round. You can see forever pretty much, and you just think it's flat land, and then you get to it, and it's amazing. Here's a steep canyon like this running right down through the Bald Flats. And we're just thankful, we're thankful to the good Lord that we have it, because for the water supply, you just come up on it, and here it is.
This hidden treasure on Baird's cattle ranch is known as Chevelon Canyon, a green, lush oasis smack dab in the middle of the desert. But wait, it gets better. Look up the steep sandstone canyon walls, and you'll begin to see an astonishing number of ancient petroglyphs.
We've had this site recorded. It's on the National Register of Historical Places. They spent 5 years, 3 full weeks a year here recording the site. And according to Dr. Don Weaver out of NAU, he led the group of archaeologists, and they were from all over the world that came in here with him. And he claims some of these petroglyphs date back like 7,500 to 6,000 BC. It's amazing, kind of mind-boggling to think about just how long them people were in this canyon.
The rock art is nothing short of amazing. Geometric shapes, antlered animals, large creatures, and even a woman in childbirth. Archaeologists have documented more than 3,000 images in the canyon.
To me, it's a special place, not mysterious, but it's just a beautiful, special canyon. And there is a word I'm trying to think that you could use, but I can't think of it right now. But it's just a special place to be.
I was interested in playing ragtime piano with silent movies, and hence my nickname Professor Hall. And then I got interested in the old hand crank motion picture equipment. I've done a lot of performances around the country. I've played in Hollywood, and I've played in London doing silent movie shows, and been in quite a few theaters, and I can say that the Liberty is one of the most unique theaters that I've ever had the pleasure of being associated with. The Liberty Theater was built in 1918 at a cost of $80,000, and it paid for itself in 1 year, which is rather remarkable. Of course, Jerome was a boom town at those days. When sound came in the late 20s, the theater was closed down in 1929 and never ever converted to run sound. I've never ever seen another theater that had never been converted to sound on some level. The top floor area is basically a time capsule. Never was tampered with. The original projection equipment is intact. There were still carbons on the floor in the projection booth, and remnants of film, and receipts from movie companies that had rented films to be shown here. It was a time capsule like none other. Oftentimes I'm asked what was the first movie made in Arizona, and there's a big debate whether it was a documentary or a narrative film, meaning a story film, and actually it was kind of a story film made in 1898 on the Navajo Reservation of the Navajo by the Burton Holmes Travelogue Company. The Lubin Company from Philadelphia came to Arizona in 1912, and they made films all through Arizona, including in the Prescott area, and they were here as late as 1915 and shot the first narrative film made in the Grand Canyon. Of course, in Prescott you had Junior Bonner, shot in 1972 with Steve McQueen. The list goes on in Prescott. There's plenty of films. John Wayne made an awful lot of movies here. The movie Oklahoma was shot in Arizona. It makes perfect sense. It's the movie business, right? So that's some of the films that are made here. There have been 27 films that won Academy Awards that were shot at least in part in Arizona.
You probably can't imagine a movie set in the middle of nowhere, but some of Hollywood's biggest names and big budget movies were filmed smack dab in the Arizona desert.
It's not what you would expect to find off a dirt road in the middle of the southern Arizona desert, a movie set standing tall. Since the 1940s, however, Mescal has been the set to more than 300 movies. Movies such as The Quick and the Dead, Tombstone, and The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean, all filmed here. And it's not just film crews who find Mescal appealing. High fashion shoots have even used this backdrop. But at the end of the day, Mescal is a place where some of Hollywood's biggest names have walked these streets, starring in big budget movies. Actors like Gene Hackman, Sharon Stone, Kurt Russell, even Paul Newman. You may recognize some of the more famous backdrops, like the street here that the Earp brothers walked along the way to the OK Corral. Just looking around, you can see why studios would choose to shoot a real Western or ghost town movie where they don't want a fancy building, but something that is weathered and has character. Add the scenery, and it just doesn't get any better. Wide open it is, rustic and real. Just some great Hollywood history, tinseled town sparkle, smack in the middle of the desert, just off, you guessed it, an Arizona highway.
As you can see, Arizona has had a large presence in the film industry, but it could have been bigger. I was told a story once that the great film director Cecil B. DeMille wanted to film and build a studio in Flagstaff, so he got on a train and took it there, and he said, this city is just a little too modern and it snows. So he got back on the train and took it to the end of the line. That ended up in California in a little town called Hollywood. And the rest, as they say, is history. Thanks everyone so much for joining us. I'm Robin Sewell, and we'll see you on the next Arizona Highways.